Hello, this is Steve from Glass Accessories International, the TOYO distributor. Today we're going to talk about replacing the suction cup on your TOYO Circle Cutter. Occasionally they do wear out after time, and it is something that can be replaced. They're about $20. The key to replacing the suction cup is actually removal of this little tiny compression pin right here, and that's what we're going to talk about how to remove. The tools we're going to use today: a vise, if you have it, very helpful. If not, you could use some sort of a clamp. A couple of nails that are going to fit in that little tiny hole to help us push out that pin. A hex wrench, which we're going to use 3mm hex wrench, no less, to remove the screw to take the bar off your circle cutter, which I've already done on this one. A hammer to push that pin out, and some long nose pliers. I also have a block of wood in case you don't have a workbench that you can pound things on. That'll help protect your table. So let's get started. First thing is, take your hex wrench, 3mm, remove the screw that is holding your bar in place, take it out, and remove the bar. It's not actually technically required, but it makes things easier. It's one less thing to be in the way. Next, what we're going to do is, you'll notice you can push the bottom of the suction cup, and it makes this much easier to move. And that's going to make it a lot easier, because when it's down like this, there's pressure on that little tiny pin in there. We want to remove that pressure. So to remove that, we're going to push it like this, so it's loose. Then I'm going to set it in my vise. I'm going to tighten down the vise onto the lever so that it's held in the open position. That way we don't actually have pressure on the pin itself as much as possible. Now I start with the slightly bigger nail that's just a little bit, it's almost the size of that little pin. It's just a hair bigger, and I find that that's easier to help get it started. I'm going to tap it until it starts moving out. Once I've got it started, I'm going to switch to my slightly smaller nail and tap it through. And I'm going to push on here also, just to release the pressure on the bottom of the suction cup. Tap my nail on through. Now if you can get just to the point where the compression pin doesn't come out the other side, but the suction cup releases from the lever, it's actually the ideal situation. Oh, just like that. That way you don't have to try and get the compression pin back in. So now this is loose. And this is the part we're going to be replacing. Hold on to the washer and the spring. You're going to need that to replace it. Let me show you the lever here while we have it loose. You can see I popped it through, but it's not all the way through, which is kind of nice. Actually, just to make sure it doesn't fall out, I'm going to just tap it down a hair till I can see that it's flush with the inside. That's going to get us prepared for the step of putting it back together. All right, perfect. So that's all ready to go. So now you can see on the suction cup, there's a few different washers and such, and I would take note of that. Even take a little picture of it with your camera, or you can refer back to this video. We're going to take the washer off the top. This clip stays in place, slides right off. Then you can take the spring and this washer off. And I believe that washer is part of the mechanism. So if not, definitely take that off and put it on too. Anyhow, putting it back together, we're just going to put the spring back on, put the washer back on, set the brass piece right back on top there. Carefully grab our washer and put that back on top. And now the tricky part, we got to fit it back together. So I'm going to push this through so that the little hole there, whoops, becomes visible again. See, if I let go, it disappears. I got to keep pressure on it to keep that hole visible. Now I'm going to take the handle, the lever, slide it right on over the bar. There we go. And now I can set it right on my desk. Start to tap that right back into place. If you start to tap and it doesn't feel like it's going in, make sure it's lined up with the hole, because you definitely don't want to bend that little pin. Now you can see I got it in there flush. Flip it over, it came right on through onto the other side. We can check and make sure it works, and it does. Pulls the suction cup in, pushes it back out. Oops, pulls it in, pushes it out, and that seems successful. Last thing to do is reattach your bar. Just slide it on in, pop your 3mm screw back in, tighten it down, and you're good to go. That's how to replace the suction cup on a TOYO Circle Cutter.